At 92, Robert Fuller still wakes up every morning on his Texas ranch. He hasn't acted in more than 20 years. He doesn't miss it. That surprises a lot of people because this is a guy who once broke records in Japan and won 5 acting awards in Germany. He turned down Jack Webb 2 times before he said yes to Emergency. An emergency. You mean waking up in the morning and going to work with Julie London? Yeah. He even said no to a role that could have made him a big legend again. But somewhere along the way, Hollywood lost him. What happened behind the scenes that made one of television's favorite cowboys walk away for good? He finally explained it all. Robert Fuller came into the world as Leonard Leroy Lee on July 29, 1933 at 1:50 in the afternoon in Troy, New York. Right when he was born, the country was deep in the Great Depression. Families were just trying to get by day after day. His mom, Elizabeth Lee, kept her mind on dance and performing because that was the only world she knew. It set the beat for his whole childhood. He was her only kid, and she filled his early days with movement, music, and little pieces of stage life she could bring home. Troy was tough in the 1930s with empty pockets, empty stores, and worry everywhere. But even in that hard place, he felt the spark of show business. People said his birth name, Leonard Leroy Lee, was too long for such a quick boy. So they started calling him Buddy Lee. And that name stuck around him for years. The mix of a mom who loved art and a world that made everything hard gave him a special kind of strength. Something that stayed with him as he grew up. When he turned 10, his parents got divorced and his world split in half. It shook up any steadiness he had. His mom took him to Florida so she could work as a nightclub dancer. Once they got there, he kept changing schools so much that he barely had time to make Fr. Yens. They lived in Miami for a bit where he went to Miami Military Academy, and later they moved to Key West after she got remarried. Every move pulled him away from what he had just gotten used to, and the 1940s were already rough for lots of families. Robert learned to adjust because he had no other choice. He met new teachers, new kids, and new rules every year, and all that moving taught him to count on himself more than anyone else. The divorce hurt a lot, but instead of breaking him, it taught him to keep going with whatever he had. Growing up in that changing world meant his name and who he was kept changing too. He started as Leonard Leroy Lee, grew up as Buddy Lee, and after his mom married Robert Simpson Sr., he legally became Robert Simpson Jr. He took that name seriously because he saw his stepdad as his real dad. Later, when he got to Hollywood and wanted a fresh start, he picked the name Robert Fuller from a relative with the last name Fuller. Each new name fit a different part of his life, almost like the world kept giving him new versions of himself until he found the right one. People sometimes said it was unusual for one guy to have so many names, and he even ended up third on a list of actors with the most legal name changes. Every change marked a big turn in his story. At 11, he went to Miami Military Academy for 5th and 6th grade while his mom danced at night to keep them going. The strict rules hit him hard at first. He had to wake up early, follow orders, and carry himself in new ways. But the structure taught him discipline and made him sharper. After the academy, he spent a year in a normal school, and when his mom remarried, they moved again, this time to Chicago. The military academy experience stayed with him, especially the feeling of responsibility it put on him. It showed him how to stand strong when life asked for more than he thought he could give. When he was 6, long before the military clothes and Hollywood dreams, he had a big change. It was 1939 when his family moved to Key West. The island felt like its own world, full of fishing boats, calm water, and open land where a boy could run and explore. Robert found hunting and fishing there, things that sank deep inside him as real loves. The peace of Key West felt different from the bright stage lights he would chase later. It was natural and steady. That love for the outdoors stayed with him his whole life and would one day pull him away from Hollywood to a quiet ranch life. Moving to Key West so young shaped what he cared about long before he even knew what success was. Everything changed again when he turned 16 in 1950. His stepdad left the Navy because he wanted to dance in movies, and that one choice moved the whole family to Hollywood. It was a huge risk. Instead of a safe military life, they jumped into movie sets, auditions, and money that came and went. Robert quit school early and started working as a stuntman. He had natural balance and strength, especially with horses. But he quickly saw that Hollywood had paths he never dreamed of. That move to California changed his whole direction and opened doors he didn't know were there. By 17, he was working as a doorman at Grauman's Chinese Theater, dressed in a traditional Chinese outfit while greeting guests and guiding crowds. The place was full of stars and big premieres, and within 6 months he got promoted to assistant manager. Suddenly he wore a tuxedo at night and was in charge of 20 usherettes, making decisions most teenagers never face. Celebrities came through every day. Actors talked to him. Some told him to join the Screen Extras Guild. He learned how the business worked, not from school, but right in the middle of one of Hollywood's most famous spots. That job didn't just pay the bills. It brought him into the world he would soon join. By 1953, he was dancing in the chorus line of Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, moving on stage behind Marilyn Monroe as she sang her famous Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend. He wore a tuxedo with silver streaks in his hair, part of the shiny world everyone watched. He also danced in I Love Melvin and Latin Lovers, working next to stars like Debbie Reynolds and Lana Turner. Being in those shows showed him how much work and art went into the glamour people saw on screen. It made him respect the craft more and want something bigger than just dancing in the background. Still, even with talent, stunt work alone didn't pay enough. He kept doing different jobs. He stayed at Grauman's because he needed steady money. And stunt pay in the early 1950s barely covered living costs. Lots of performers had the same struggle, risking hurt for money that didn't last. Robert knew he needed a path that gave him more than just getting by. So he started looking at acting roles that could give him steadiness. His first movie part came in 1952 in Above and Beyond as an extra. Standing next to big names like Robert Taylor showed him how much farther he had to go. Soon he was in The Harder They Fall with Humphrey Bogart and The Men in the Gray Flannel Suit with Gregory Peck. Those sets felt big and scary but exciting too. He watched every detail. Every minute next to those stars taught him something new. His path stopped for a bit when he joined the U.S. Army, but even that didn't take away the drive he had built. 1819, just when his career was starting to take off, he got drafted during the Korean War. It was 1953. Hollywood stopped for him as he got sent to Korea, where fighting was still heavy even though the war was almost over. Over 36,000 American soldiers had died and more than 103,000 were wounded by the time the armistice came in July 1953. Robert served through all that tension and felt the heavy weight of the war. Those 2 years pulled him away from the speed he had built, but they also made him tougher and gave him the grounded feel he later brought to westerns. He served 15 months in combat with the 19th Infantry Regiment, a group known for its bravery and its losses. The conditions were awful, freezing cold, constant shells, long nights that tested every part of a person. The regiment had fought terrible battles before he got there, including the stand at Chipyong-ni in February 1951. Living through that built a deep toughness in him. The real feel he brought to the screen later came from what he lived through there, not from acting classes. During his time in service, he stood out for his discipline and how he looked. He was picked as the outstanding soldier on guard mount 3 different times. Only the best soldiers got that spot, and getting it 3 times showed how much his commanders respected him. It wasn't just a prize. It was real respect earned through steadiness and strength. When he came home in 1955, Hollywood didn't feel the same. The war had changed him. He planned to quit show business completely and find a normal steady job away from lights and scripts. Lots of veterans felt that way after coming back. It was hard to return to old dreams once life had shown its harder side. Robert thought he was done with acting. He believed he needed a new life. But his dad and his best friend, Chuck Courtney, wouldn't let him quit. They pushed him to go to Richard Boone's acting class, knowing he still had talent he hadn't used fully yet. That push changed everything. Boone's class opened doors, helped him get his confidence back, and connected him with people who believed in him. Without that, he might have left Hollywood forever. Robert Fuller's rise felt like it picked up speed the moment he got to New York in 1956. He was just another young guy hoping when he walked into the neighborhood playhouse. But once he started learning from Sanford Meisner, things started to change fast. The training was tough. The room had names that would become legends like Gregory Peck and Robert Duvall. And Fuller took in every lesson he could. He pushed himself every day. By the time 1958 came, he had already gotten into several TV shows and movies. Each part made him better. Guest spots on shows like Gunsmoke and Wagon Train showed something people didn't expect. His energy, his natural feel, his way of making even tiny parts come alive. Most actors wait years for steady work. Fuller got it in 2. That quick rise came from discipline, good timing, and the quiet confidence he always carried. Not long after, another moment changed things. It happened at the audition for Friendly Persuasion in 1956. William Wyler wanted a young Quaker boy and was tired of looking. One actor got sent away because he wore fake sideburns, something Wyler hated. Fuller walked in with real ones. Something so simple but perfect for the part. Wyler looked right at him and said, "Can you act?" Fuller said, "You bet." That was all it took. He got cast right there, something so rare people still talked about it years later. He was 23 and suddenly in scenes with Gary Cooper, who praised his real talent and treated him like an equal. Coming up, Friendly Persuasion put Fuller's name in bigger rooms, and he left that set knowing his life had changed. That same year brought another small start that would grow into something huge. On the set of Friendly Persuasion, Fuller met John Smith for the first time. Neither knew that moment would shape their careers. They played brothers and something clicked right away. They got each other's timing. They matched each other's feel. Producers saw it immediately. When the movie ended, both walked away not knowing that a few years later they would become one of TV's most remembered pairs on Laramie. Their friendship off-screen grew over time, and the connection that started by chance in 1956 ended up shaping decades of success together. Around that time, Fuller also got into a weird situation. During the search for a part in Teenage Thunder, the director wanted someone who really looked like trouble. Fuller and Chuck Courtney decided to do something wild. They staged a crazy fight right in front of the director. They swung at each other, knocked over stuff, and didn't hold back. The mess worked. The director believed them. Fuller got the role and even beat out Ed Burns. People in Hollywood kept telling that story because it showed something key about Fuller. He didn't wait for someone to say yes. He jumped into moments with everything he had and proved what he could do. At the same time, he needed a stage name that would stand out. The name Fuller came from a far-back relative who sailed on the Mayflower in 1620. That link gave him a quiet pride and a feeling he was part of something bigger. The middle initial A was just practical. There were too many Robert Fullers in the Screen Actors Guild. His new name gave him room to become the Robert Fuller people would love, someone tough and real, someone you couldn't forget once you saw him. Everything changed in 1959 when he got the role that would turn his life around. Laramie came to screens that September and brought Jess Harper to the world. Fuller went from small parts to being the heart of a big Western show. Jess was tough, loyal, quick, and real in ways that made him stick in people's minds. The show ran for 4 seasons and made 124 episodes, each one helping Fuller rise higher. Fans loved him. Kids adored him. People around the world followed him. By the time Laramie ended in 1963, Fuller was one of the most popular actors on TV, and new offers came fast because everyone knew he could hold the screen. That success almost didn't happen. In 1959, Fuller surprised the bosses at Revue Studios not once, but twice. First, Patrick Kelly offered him a good part in a detective show called Markham. Fuller said no because he wanted a Western and Kelly was shocked. A few weeks later, Kelly offered him the role of Slim Sherman in Laramie. Fuller liked the script but wanted Jess Harper instead. When Kelly said John Smith was already cast as Jess, Fuller politely said no to Slim and walked out, thinking he had just ended his chances, but luck was on his side. His agent called the same day and told him to come back for a Jess Harper test. The next morning, he got the part. That choice shaped everything after. Fuller's push made even more sense once they started filming. Jess Harper fit him perfectly in a way Slim never could. Jess had fire. He had grit and warmth and danger. Producers saw right away that Fuller had picked the right role. John Smith moved to Slim Sherman, and their chemistry became the heart of the show. Fuller's risk paid off in the way that only happens when someone knows exactly who they are and what they can bring. His fame got crazy big in 1961 when he landed in Tokyo. When he stepped out at Haneda Airport, about 100,000 fans filled the place. People hadn't seen anything like it. Laramie had been Japan's #1 show for 5 years, and Fuller had become a huge favorite. He even won the Best Actor award in Japan in 1961, beating every Japanese star. It shocked him, a reminder of how far his work had gone and how much Jess Harper connected with people so far away. Japan's love for him just kept growing. He got invited to eat with the Prime Minister and received the Golden Order of Merit from the Empress, becoming the first American to get that honor. His work raising $100,000 for the Japanese Red Cross and his time on Japanese TV made him someone they really cared about. Standing in a ceremony with the Emperor and Empress, Fuller saw that his work had built bridges across countries and languages in ways he never thought possible. Laramie stood out partly because Fuller and John Smith insisted on doing real ranch work on camera. They washed dishes, chopped wood, fed chickens, fixed roofs, and moved through scenes like men who really knew ranch life. That realness made the show better. Audiences could feel it. Japanese viewers especially loved Jess Harper because he lived by honor and loyalty, values that matched samurai stories. In more than 70 countries, those qualities turned Fuller's character into something special. When Laramie ended in 1963, Fuller moved right into Wagon Train as Cooper Smith. The change felt easy. Universal Studios wanted to keep him, and fans followed him happily. Cooper was calmer and more thoughtful, and Fuller used his deep voice and steady feel to make him someone people trusted. He was in 85 episodes between 1963 and 1965 and carried some of the show's strongest stories. That time helped make him a true Western legend. Behind the scenes, life at Universal Studios had its own stories. Whiskey Row was the name for a line of 6 dressing rooms where actors like Ward Bond, Frank McGrath, Terry Wilson, John Smith, Robert Fuller, and Lee Marvin met almost every day after lunch. They talked, laughed, drank, and let loose. It was wild, loud, full of jokes and stories, and it became a famous part of old Hollywood. Fuller always said those rooms felt like family in their own crazy way. Just across the hall, Tony Curtis and Rock Hudson had huge studio bungalows with fancy things that looked almost unreal. Fuller and his friends joked about the difference. Their side was rowdy fun while the other side was smooth comfort. But that closeness created fun moments and a friendly competition everyone liked. Working on Wagon Train also let Fuller share scenes with big Hollywood names like Ernest Borgnine and Rhonda Fleming. Borgnine brought depth and power that pushed Fuller to do even better. Rhonda Fleming added grace and strength, and Fuller admired how she handled every scene. Every time he worked with actors like them, he learned something new, and the show got better from the energy they added. In 1962, at the peak of his Laramie fame, Fuller married Patricia Lee Lyon. Patty had been a beauty queen in Indiana, and she became a steady part of his life. They dated for a year before getting married on December 20th. Over the next 22 years, they built a home together and raised 3 kids. Rob, Christine, and Patrick grew up while their dad became one of the most known faces on TV. Patty supported him quietly, went to events with him, and helped him balance fame and family. Even after their marriage ended in 1984, Fuller talked about her with warmth. When she passed away in 1994, he remembered her as a big part of his journey. Robert Fuller took the role of Vin Tanner in Return of the Seven in 1966, and the moment he joined, things shifted. Steve McQueen had played the character first, but a long fight between Yul Brynner and McQueen meant Brynner wouldn't work with him again. The producers had to find someone who could carry the part and stand strong next to Brynner. Fuller fit that perfectly. His rough look, the way he moved, and the calm in his eyes made him the right choice. Once he got to the set, he and Brynner connected fast. Their friendship grew so strong it lasted until Brynner's death in 1985. The movie was shot in Spain, and Fuller's schedule got so full that even while filming, he had to fly to Munich for the premiere of Incident at Phantom Hill. One minute he was working in Spain, the next he was rushing through airports to get to Germany on time. The crew had to film around him, which didn't happen much with main actors back then. Sometimes they shot scenes without him because he was needed in Munich for press and fans. His growing fame in Europe made those trips important, and everyone on the movie understood. By the time he walked the Munich red carpet in late September 1966, he was carrying 2 movies at once. Incident at Phantom Hill brought him back with Dan Duryea, someone he really respected. They had worked together years earlier on Laramie, and Fuller never forgot what he learned from Duryea. In Phantom Hill, the 2 played conflicted partners hunting a stolen $1 million gold shipment. Fans loved seeing them together again. Critics liked the tension between them, and people who loved westerns called it one of the most exciting teams that year. Then came the hard ride in 1970. Suddenly Fuller wasn't just the good-looking cowboy or the tough soldier. He became Phil Duncan, a Vietnam veteran carrying heavy loss. The movie followed him as he brought home his dead friend's 1947 motorcycle, called Baby, and tried to keep a promise. Fuller's acting surprised people who thought they knew him. His voice had more pain. His eyes showed a softness that wasn't there before. The film came out in May 1970 and slowly became a cult favorite. People connected with the hurt, the loyalty, and the quiet sadness Fuller played so honestly, and many critics said it was one of his best performances ever. While America was seeing this new side of him, Germany had already fallen for him. In 1970, he became the first American actor to win an Otto Award for Best Actor. That opened the door to something amazing. He kept winning, and in a few years he had 5 Otto Awards. Those awards mattered because they showed how wide his reach was. His westerns and later his medical show Emergency found new fans in Europe. People who had never seen the American West still loved his characters, and his name became well known in German homes.